you got a question for Sylvia.
I have a really bad problem with social anxiety. I can't freaking out. I can't.
You're doing pretty good now. But let me tell you where this comes from. You were accused of being a witch in a past life. You were put in a circle, and you had to name 2 people so that supposedly you wouldn't die. Except they didn't tell you that. They just said, tell us 2 people. You named 2 people, and all 3 of you were hung. So no wonder you have social anxiety.
I lost my boyfriend tragically a few years ago. They never found him. And I've had such a hard time since, every day.
The reason why you didn't find him is because he's in water. And find him in water, it's like the girl that's missing in Aruba. You can't find somebody.
Well, it was September 11th. There was no, he was a fireman, but there was
no, see, I keep seeing him in water.
My mom passed away 3 years ago, and
she was a beautiful woman, by the way.
Thank you.
She was very flamboyant.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, she was sort of a gypsy type of woman.
Yes.
Yes.
And before she passed away, she tried several times to tell me something in the hospital, and I could not understand because of the tube she had in her mouth and
yeah, the trachea, all that.
And I just didn't understand it, and to this day, it still bothers me that I couldn't understand my own mother.
She didn't, you know, this is really hard to tell you. Your father is not your father.
Wow.
I'm having dizzy spells for the longest time, and I want to know, is there something really wrong with me, and will it affect my
whenever
career?
this happens, I always say, go see a doctor, but...
I've seen doctors.
Yeah, but you have labyrinthitis, which means you have, yeah, sounds like you have just water in your ears from a sinus.
Sinuses? I never had any sinus problems.
Well, honey, you don't have to have a sinus. You don't have to have a snotty nose to have upper sinus.
Is that affecting my career?
And it goes into your ears.
Will that affect her career? Will that affect her career? Okay, all right, let me just...
I mean, you know, she could take any antihistamine. That's what a doctor should have recommended, and dry up the ears.
Antihistamine.
Yeah.
Dry up the ear. How about this thing?
What is going on, everybody out there? Lamont at large and in charge. Today, we're at the Oak Hill Memorial Park Cemetery here in San Jose, California. And today we're going to visit the final resting place of Sylvia Browne. If you don't know who she is, she was basically a psychic fraud, and she lied to many, many people and lied about her psychic abilities and all that. Not going to be a very long video. We're just going to get right into who she was and what she was doing. Without further ado, we're going to make our way down these stairs. I'm going to sneak past the worker that's been constantly looking at me for the last 20 minutes. I don't know why. And let's talk about Sylvia Browne, who she was, and why this guy keeps looking at me. I have no idea. Without further ado, let's just get out of here. This guy's getting on my nerves. And we're going to step out into the light. Let's get right into it. Now, as we step out onto the scenic view that is downtown San Jose, California, let's talk briefly about the history of one psychic fraud, Sylvia Browne. So, she was born October 19th, 1936 in Kansas City, Missouri. Pretty much to a normal family, normal upbringing, well, right until about the age of 5. One day, her great-grandmother and great-grandfather are visiting the home, and they're in the kitchen, and all of a sudden she starts seeing their faces become distorted, almost like they're melting, and it scares the living bejesus out of her. And so she runs out of the kitchen screaming and crying to her grandmother. She says, Grammy, great-grandpy and great-grammy, their faces were melting. I'm scared. And then her grandmother looks at her and said, you know what, kid, let me tell you something. Their faces weren't melting. What you were seeing was a psychic vision of doom. Doom? Yeah. Yeah, we're all psychics in this family. Well, not all of us. Not all of us have the gifts. I have the gift, and clearly now you have the gift. And your great uncle, he has a gift too. He talks to aliens all the time. And at that moment, little 5-year-old Sylvia Browne realized that she had the power. So both of her great-grandparents would be dead after that vision within, I believe, a matter of a few weeks of each other. And so she started on her life of sharing her psychic abilities, her psychic powers. Now, as a young woman, she wouldn't charge anybody for her services because this was a divine gift, right? And any divine gifts should be shared with humanity, and you shouldn't have to charge anybody any kind of money for these gifts because, you know, you're helping people, right? Or so you think. And as a young woman, Sylvia, she wouldn't charge for her services when it comes to tarot card reading, psychic vision reading, so forth and so on. But as she got older, she's like, wait a minute. She goes, why am I working these stupid jobs when I could just tell people the future and then they'll, you know, give me a donation, and the donation is going to go to a wonderful charity, her. So going into the 70s and 80s, she starts making a name for herself. She was on that television show, That's Incredible. I don't know if anybody remembers out there, That's Incredible. I used to watch that as a child. And she would start getting more and more known and more famous. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I never heard of her until she started going on the Montel Williams show back in the early 90s. We didn't have the internet when I was a kid. I mean, we did, but I didn't have access to it, so I didn't know of her until she was on the Montel Williams show. Well, she's becoming big time now, and Montel Williams believes her. So if she's going on his show, and at that time he was a pretty big talk show host, he was a pretty big deal. So that means that she's got to be legit, right? Well, she did have a premonition that did come true. In her 2008 book, she wrote, quote, "In around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread through the globe, attacking the lungs, bronchial tubes, and resisting all known treatments. Almost more baffling than the illness itself will be the fact that it will vanish as quickly as it arrived, attack again 10 years later, and then disappear completely." Now, Kim Kardashian had retweeted that quote from that book to her 60 some odd million followers on Twitter. So that sounds like something that we all went through, in which a lot of people died, right? Okay, so she got something right there. But the problem with Sylvia Browne and her being a fraud was that she got a lot wrong. And it's not even like she got a couple things wrong. You know, not every psychic is a fraud. I do believe that there are legit psychics out there. The ones that are on TV, I really can't say whether they're legit or not. Maybe we'll tackle that in a future video. But I do believe that some psychics do have a special gift. I visited one before and I believed what they were telling me because they told me things about myself that they would have never known anything about me, right? Just, you know, odd things. However, let's get back to the things that she said that were complete and utterly false, and also just a bunch of hogwash and nonsense. So in 2010, I guess an online magazine called Skeptical Inquirer, they did an exhaustive research project article on her, and of the 115 missing persons cases that Sylvia Browne lent her expertise into, out of 115, she got all of them wrong. All of them wrong. All of them wrong, right? For instance, in 2003, she was on the Montel Williams show, and she was on the show with the parents of Sean Hornbeck. So she told Sean Hornbeck's parents, when they asked her where their son was, she told them that a Hispanic man with dark skin and dreadlocks kidnapped their son, and they would find him dead in between two big jagged boulders. Well, that wouldn't be the case because they actually found him alive, and he had been kidnapped by a white guy. Okay. And also on an earlier 2002 episode of the Montel Williams Show, she told the parents of Holly Crewson, at that time her daughter had been missing for 7 years. She told them, oh, hey, your daughter is alive and she's a stripper in Los Angeles. Oh, okay, well, that's good to hear as a parent. Your kid's missing for 7 years. You feared the worst, and then you're going on this show, this reputable Montel Williams show, and then you have this psychic, reassuring you, oh, no, your daughter's fine. She's stripping and she's living the life, and, she'll contact you eventually. Well, she wouldn't, because at the time of the television show, Holly had long been dead. She was an unidentified corpse sitting in the refrigerated section of the San Diego morgue. Okay. So you have that little bit of nonsense. Let me tell you a couple future visions that she had that she got wrong, right? So she said by the year 2014, there would be a cure for Lou Gehrig's disease. Not true. She said there would be a pill at that same year that would basically cure obesity. That's not true. She said in the year 2020 there would be a cure for blindness. I don't think that's true either. She said in 2010 a flesh-eating disease being transmitted by microscopic mites that would be getting into this country, that would be getting through this country on the feathers of exotic birds, would come in and just tear us apart. Well, I haven't heard anything about that. Okay. All right. She said by the year 2020, there would be no IRAs, mutual funds, retirement plans, and the stock market will not exist by that time. Well, if that were to happen, I don't think the world would exist as we know it. Oh, and don't forget what she said to the mother of Amanda Berry.
She's not alive, honey.
Can you tell me if they'll ever find her, or is she out there?
See, I hate this when they're in the water. I just hate this. She's not alive, honey. Your daughter was not the type that would not have called you.
So you don't think I'll ever see her again?
Yeah, in heaven, on the other side.
Now, later on, when Amanda Berry was found very much alive and having been kept a sex slave for the last 10 years of her life, Sylvia Browne lost a lot of support in her fan base, but not all of them. Not all of them, of course, because, just like, movie celebrities, TV, social media, influencers, they can do no wrong in some of the eyes of their followers because they think that these people are kind of godlike in a weird sense or another. I have no idea. Also, Sylvia Browne said in 2015 that by that time, most, if not all, upscale homes would have robots in them. Now, I'm going to give her some slack. I'm going to cut her some slack right there because I consider a washer and dryer and a dishwasher to be robots in a sense, right? They're kind of sort of robots. In an interview with her first husband, Gary Dufresne, after a tarot card reading, they were in the kitchen washing dishes, and Gary tells Sylvia, in so many words, he says, listen, don't you feel bad that we all know that this is a bunch of nonsense and hooey, and you're taking these people's money? And he didn't quote his wife on what she said, but he basically says that she turned around and said, screw them. If anybody believes this stuff, they deserve to be taken. Now that's a real go-getter right there. Well, anyways, so this is the final resting place of Sylvia Browne. Right there. She's right underneath a flight path. there's Southwest Airlines. That's the only airline I fly. Southwest, they're the best. I'm not, don't get me started on the whole airplane thing. But listen. This video could have been a lot more in depth, except there's going to be a couple cases that I cover that she got wrong. So we're going to, in the future vlog, we're going to go into those cases. So there's some other videos out there, guys. If you just put in Sylvia Browne on YouTube, you're going to find some pretty good videos of people just going through a lot of her hooey. But listen, a very interesting person, a very interesting woman, a woman that, you know, I believed as a kid, like when I would watch her on the Montel Williams show, and she'd be on like Larry King, and she was also on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, and I think that was at the time when there was some kind of a mine disaster, which I will be doing a future vlog on, and she had, I guess they were just barely getting information in, and he told her about the mine disaster, and he said like all of the miners have been found except one, and she said, yeah, I knew they would be found, and then 30 seconds later he's like, no, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. No, all of the miners died except one. And she goes, well, why would they just say that? Hey, listen, let me tell you something. Whether you believe this or not, or whether you like her or not, listen, you got to give her credit. This woman just took a lot of people for a ride. You know what I mean? And hey, you know, she wasn't also doing people a disservice by giving false hope to people whose kids were missing. She was also doing like medical readings, saying like, oh, you should get this checked, oh, you should get that checked. You know what I mean? She would tell people like, oh yeah, don't worry about that growth on your neck. Yeah, nah, that's not a good thing. She was giving false hope to a lot of people, telling people that their kids were dead and they weren't. Come on. It is what it is, guys. It is what it is. All right, rest in peace, Sylvia Browne. A part of my childhood, a small part. A wrong part, but a small part. Okay, guys. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm out of here. And I will see you on the next episode. I gotta get going. Should I try to run through this? Nah, never mind. I'm not 5. I need to grow up sometime. I'm 44, for God's sake. All right, the weather held up. So now, if the weather continues to hold up, we're gonna fly in that direction over there. There's a story I want to cover. If it doesn't rain, we're gonna go over there and do a quick video. All right, guys, I am out of here from the Oak Hill Memorial Park Cemetery in San Jose, California. Lamont at Large. I will see you later. Peace out.